Think you know Amazon? Think again. Did you know you can get a seasonal warehouse job offer today? You don't even need to interview. That means you can make extra cash before the holidays. You can even pick your own payday. And seasonal jobs can lead to full-time, regular employment. You'll be amazed by what you can get as an Amazon warehouse associate. To learn more about all the benefits of working a seasonal job at Amazon, go to amazon.com/hourly. Amazon is proud to be an equal opportunity employer.
Ladies and gentlemen, RotoGrinders, welcome back to the Week 9 DFS Roundup. My name is Alex Dunlap. I'm the editor-in-chief at rosterwatch.com. I'm the host of Roster Watch on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, Saturdays, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern, and Sunday mornings for the game day edition, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern. Joined as always here on the Roundup on Grinders Live by my co-host. You all know him as TheSeige. He is CJ Carltonbach. Siege, what's going on, brother?
I got to be honest. If you think my takes normally are crazy, you should probably just turn off the show right now. This is going to get ugly. I wish I had a better word for it than ugly.
Well, we talked pre-show, and I can already tell, man.
Tom Savage is not the ugliest quarterback I'm rostering this week, and it's not close. Like, I'm rostering quarterbacks that are way less talented than him.
There's no quarterback in the National Football League less talented than Tom Savage.
Oh, trust me. There are a couple, and I'm rostering them. So don't you worry.
I mean, it's okay.
These guys make Kevin Hogan look good.
No one makes Kevin Hogan look good.
For fantasy perspective. Trust me, we'll get there.
Yeah. We're going to get there. For anybody who hasn't seen the show before, this is like I said, this is the Week 9 DFS Roundup. This is where Siege and I go through 6 different takes from some of the different shows here on Grinders Live and some of the different podcasts that come out on the RotoGrinders NFL podcast feed. Our producer, Simon Edwards, helps us to get these clips together. And this is where Siege and I kind of opine our thoughts on what some of the other hosts have said, and also get into some of our own, maniacal discussions, thoughts, ideas, prop bets, and degenerate action. Last week, I did happen to beat Siege in our prop bet.
It was a
twofer.
Better.
Run
better. My guy gets hurt in the first quarter, and your guy catches a 1-yard touchdown in garbage time.
That would be Josh Doxson versus Deontay Thompson.
Oh, but who, by the way, finally healthy, just mashed this week. Mashed.
I don't believe that the prop had anything to do with the Week 9 game, but it did have to do with last week whenever he went 1 reception for 5 yards versus Josh Doxson, who did in fact go for the touchdown. Regardless, we're gonna get to more of these more of the prop bets between Siege and I as the show goes on. But first, we're gonna get to a few of these clips. Siege, any thoughts or general overriding views of the slate you want to get to before we get to these?
No, let's just get to them.
All right. So here we go. We got our producer, Dave, dialing these things up. The first clip comes from the Football Guys show with Tip and Pick, Austin Lee, and Dan Bach. This is Dan Bach's take on a player that he thinks will bounce back in Week 9.
Michael Thomas against Tampa Bay. He is my bounce back. He hasn't gone I don't think he's got over 100 yards yet this season receiving. I don't know if he or Mike Evans have done that. But this week, not only does he go over 100, he gets you in the end zone at least once. Wouldn't shock me if it's twice. And he is a lock and load for Team DB this week.
All right, so that was Dan Bach talking about New Orleans Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas. Dan said that Michael Thomas is a lock and load for him this week. He's predicting over 100 yards and 1, possibly 2 touchdowns. I loved hearing it because I'm all over Michael Thomas this week. Siege, I already have the feeling that you're going to be on the opposite side of the fence.
Yeah, I don't understand why everyone just thinks the Saints are going to throw the football this week. Like, this is a classic.
It's the Bucs.
They've won 5 straight weeks running the football and running the football super effectively. And Tampa's run defense isn't good. Like, why are they going to change a formula that's working? They tried to throw the football a ton in weeks 1 and 2. They lost. Then they've started running the football more in the last 5 weeks. Drew Brees has only had 40 passing attempts once over those last 5 games, and they've won 5 in a row. Like, why are they going to change it? And by the way, for all this, like, Drew Brees is an elite quarterback. Like, he hasn't had a QBR above 67 in the last 4 weeks. Like, he's been a really good, and when I say this, I mean a really good game manager. But let's be honest, the Saints are a running football team now, and they're really good at it. I just don't see this idea where they're just – now, could Drew Brees go play action deep to Michael Thomas and hit him twice? Sure. I'm not going to dispute that. Their play action game has been very effective this year. But when he's going to be 30% shot, expecting everyone to air out the game, like,
is he going to be airing out? Does Jamino have him at 30%?
That's what I saw last time I looked.
Jeez. Well, I mean, that's a little bit worrisome, especially considering, he hasn't.
Yeah, 30%.
I mean, this is just a spot, man. I mean, it's just the kind of situation where would you be at all surprised if Drew Brees, what if he threw for like 5 touchdowns? Would you be that surprised? I mean, would you be?
Would I be surprised? No, I just think it'd be I think I would be surprised. Now, if they're all like 2 or 3 yard passes or 10-yard passes, okay, it's one thing. But I just expect them to run the football, short passes. Like, that's what they've been doing all season. I just don't understand why they're going to start getting in shootouts. I don't think they want to get into a shootout. Frankly, I don't think they need to get into a shootout in this spot. I just the play action passing game. Do I think Michael Thomas is going to bust? No, I'm not saying that. I don't think he's going to go out there and put up a dud. Do I think he's going to go up there and put up a 30 spot this week? I don't. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I don't hate him. I don't think the volume is going to be what people think it's going to be.
I mean, I just think that, it isn't like he hasn't been getting the targets. As far as the slate, he's getting the 7th most targets per game on the whole entire slate. This is a matchup that is our number 1 matchup via the matchup tool at Roster Watch. That, like, there's not a single wide receiver spot that you're not going to be able to exploit this defense from. And if it looks like by alignment data that they have at Pro Football Focus, he's going to be seeing a lot of Robert McClain. And McClain, I mean, that guy's allowing a 78% completion percentage when targeting coverage. That's the 5th highest of any cornerback in the league. I mean, I guess I understand what you're saying about them maybe.
Look, I understand
they seem like a running team.
It's not like this is a funnel defense, though, where, like, you can't run on them. You can run.
No. I mean, I totally get that.
I think it's the run to set up the pass. Are the passes going to be bombs to Michael Thomas? Sure, they could be. They could be bombs to again. They could be, they could be whatever. They could be bombs to Brandon Coleman. Like, there's all sorts. It could be Willie Snead 30 yards over the middle. I get all that. I just don't think that this is a game where they're just going to throw the ball 50 times.
What do you make of all this stuff that people are saying that about the fumble narrative with Mark Ingram?
I think it's a real thing if he fumbles again. So I'll be overweight on Alvin Kamara because, like, imagine if Mark Ingram was to, like, I don't know, like, he gets in a car accident on the way to the game and he gets what would Alvin Kamara's workload be? It'd be like 30,
it'd be insane.
It'd be 30, 35 touches. So, like, that's what the de facto workload is if Ingram gets benched. So I have to be overweight on that. Yeah, I think we're 1 fumble away.
Yeah,
and like a quarter getting benched. I don't think that they can just let him keep fumbling. But he's been so good all year. I don't expect him to, like, not start or anything like that.
If you gave Kamara that kind of workload, and like, for one, he would last maybe 2 or 3 games with that kind of workload. So it wouldn't be sustainable for the season. Yeah, right. But we're just talking about the daily game here.
Right, I just need him to last 1 week. Hell, he could probably, if he got that kind of workload for a half, he probably would be at like 25 DK points in a half.
How tall is Robert McClain? I think he's only like 5'10".
He's not very tall.
Michael Thomas has 6 inches on this dude. I'm going to have plenty of Michael Thomas. I think this is a spot where I think he has too much talent.
I just don't match the field on chalk like this. So it's either 60 or like 10. And it's just, for me, I'm not playing 60% Michael Thomas in a spot where I don't think he's going to be like the focal point. I think they're going to be running the football a ton in this spot.
Well, we'll get to some of the wide receivers that you like through the course of the show, I'm sure. But Michael Thomas, I love Michael Thomas this week. I think that everything's lining up for a big breakout. I completely agree with Dan on this one. Okay, so let's go to the next clip. This one comes from the DFS Pick 6 with Eric Crane, Lord Reeves, and Evan Silva. Evan Silva, by the way, how many podcasts and shows is that guy on?
He works.
I think he has them lined up literally one after the other. But anyway, this was Millionaire Maker winner from last year, Eric Crane, talking about one tight end that he is loading up on this week.
You mentioned Jimmy Graham and how he's too cheap. Evan, he's 5K this week, and I think had he caught those 2 touchdowns in that game against the Giants,
he had 2 last week.
Yeah, I mean, we would be looking at him being 6,500. I think he's one of the clear values on this slate, and I mean, once again, you know he's safe for 5 or 6 targets minimum. You know he's going to see a couple in the red zone. This is a great offense. Washington can't defend a tight end. I mean, this is just kind of another spot like T.Y. Hilton where I'm just going to load up, and if it doesn't work out, I can live with that because the spot and the price, like whatever. I mean, it's just too good.
Okay, so that was Eric Crane on the Roto World DFS Pick 6 show that comes out on Thursdays here on Grinders Live. Or is it Tuesdays?
I think it's Tuesdays.
Let's just I said Thursdays, you say Tuesdays. Let's split the difference and say Wednesdays.
Sounds good.
So Crane's saying that Jimmy Graham is one of his clear targets on the slate. Crane says that he's going to load up on Graham because the spot versus Washington, I believe that is at home. So at first Washington at home and the price, both too good. Siege, your thoughts on Jimmy Graham this week? When I look at DK, it looks like he is, 5,000 on there versus Washington?
5,000. These are my thoughts. I don't need to say anything else. He's completely correct, and I hope people ignore.
Well, my deal is this. It's like
if he catches those 2 touchdown passes that he was wide open for, like he is like 6,500 in mega shot.
He caught his touchdowns last week.
But 2 weeks ago against the Giants when he was wide open.
He left fantasy point. He would have been like
6,500 in chalk, and this week he's 5K and not chalk. Like, yes, I'm playing all the Jimmy Graham. The wind, too. They're not going to be able to throw the deep balls to Richardson and Lopez they did last week. I love everything about this situation for Jimmy Graham. He's one of my favorite players on the entire slate. I love everything about this, and I really hope people just keep playing Jack Doyle because that Houston-Indianapolis game is going to shoot out. You keep believing people, it might just happen. We'll get to that game later on, though.
Oh, well, that's interesting because here's the thing. I am looking at I have collected about 66 props so far for the Week 9 slate, early props from some of our offshore sources at Roster Watch that we have up for our pro members in the DraftKings Flex Values based on Vegas player props spreadsheet. And Jimmy Graham has a prop this week. It's versus our number 2. So, I mean, he's facing basically what we have. Our algorithm has is the second best matchup of the week for opposing tight ends. He's 5K. The prop is not the best. Only 4 receptions for 48.5 yards plus 150 is the touchdown odds. So you're looking at the projection there, maybe at 11.25 or so through the transformation. I just think that I was expecting it to be something more like, you can't rely too much on these props, but I was expecting something more like a 5 for 62.5. Something like that with maybe more like plus 125 on the touchdown. Seems a little bit.
Those odds are you should bet the over on every single one of those.
Right.
And also, thanks for hitting the under on 2 segments before you brought up a prop. I appreciated it.
Well, dude, I bring you should have bet the under on 1 segment. I was gonna break out the prop on the Michael Thomas. Actually, I should talk about that.
No, you should not. Props are the biggest fraud in DFS. Like
Michael Thomas.
I need to make my weekly props are stupid rant.
Do it. Let's hear it.
They are stupid. Like the limits on these things are like $400, if that.
You can bet 500.
Oh, excuse me. You can bet up to 500. Like, there's no limits on these. They take no exposure. Like, yeah, sure. I guess you can have a huge edge betting these things. You want to make a little extra spending money on the side. But, no one's going to let you keep doing that forever. If they realize you're sharp, you'll get blocked. It's just pointless. Like, they really are just absolutely pointless. Unless they agree with my position, and then I'll use them.
Absolutely erroneous, Siege. Hey, the props. Like I said, they will never get me on a play. They will never get me off a play. I feel like they are such an important.
What's the point? If they won't get me on or off a play, what is the point?
I need the confirmation. I need the confirmation to see, look, Vegas agrees, or the offshore books, whoever, the lines makers, they at least agree with me here that this is a value versus the pricing. That's why I get them all on the sheet. I put them all on the sheet. And Michael Thomas, I should have brought up his prop because very, very strong prop compared to what he's had recently. But I'll let you get to your 2 segments without props. We'll just talk about the did you say that you like did you say that you did – so you're saying that you like Jimmy Graham and you're going to be off of Jack Doyle. Was that why the mention of the Houston Indy game?
I don't like that game at all, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay. So, but yeah, Jimmy Graham, I agree. I mean, I think 5K is perfectly fine for him. I was putting together lineups on Fantasy Draft a little bit earlier, and I noticed on there that Jimmy Graham's even cheaper. It's like, I think he's like 8,600.
Think you know Amazon? Think again. Did you know you can get a seasonal warehouse job offer today? You don't even need to interview. That means you can make extra cash before the holidays. You can even pick your own payday. And seasonal jobs can lead to full-time, regular employment. You'll be amazed by what you can get as an Amazon warehouse associate. To learn more about all the benefits of working a seasonal job at Amazon, go to amazon.com/hourly. Amazon is proud to be an equal opportunity employer.
The Mazda lineup of SUVs will provide safety, performance, and capability on your journey ahead. From the 3-row Mazda CX-9 to the first-ever Mazda CX-50, our sales team is ready to guide you to the SUV for your lifestyle. Shop the Omaha Metro's exclusive Mazda dealers at Woodhouse Mazda in Bellevue or Woodhouse Place Mazda. Visit us online for your next Mazda SUV at woodhousemazda.com.
Or something like that over there. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Let's go to the next one. This comes from the PFF show with Britt Devine, Tyler Beaker, and Scott Barrett. Here's Scott's take, man. Scott always has a take or two that we can use on here. This is for a play that he says he's been waiting on since April.
I've waited since April for this week. It is officially Derry Sanders week. From now and henceforth, Christian McCaffrey will only ever be referred to as Derry Sanders. Everything's coming together. Carolina traded Kelvin Benjamin just so I can have Derry Sanders week. So in week 3, when Benjamin played only 7 snaps, Christian McCaffrey saw 11 targets. Kelvin Benjamin leads behind a 19.9% target market share. That should mean even more targets for McCaffrey, who already absurdly ranks 8th among all players in target market share, 14th in expected fantasy points per game. He's in a dream matchup. He's up against an Atlanta Falcons defense who over the past 2 regular seasons, which doesn't include James White's near Super Bowl MVP winning performance against them, they're allowing the most receiving fantasy points per game to opposing running backs. Who's the best receiving running back in the game? That's Christian McCaffrey. Sorry, Chris Thompson.
Is he even a running back?
Right, exactly. So Atlanta is also allowing the 4th most fantasy points per game to receivers on short passes and passes behind the line of scrimmage this year. That's where McCaffrey has scored 90% of his total fantasy points. He's my RB9 in half-point PPR leagues. He's the 21st highest priced running back on FanDuel. Derry Sanders week. Don't look back.
Okay, so that's my guy, man, Scott Barrett. He says he's waited since April for this one. I guess loss of Kelvin Benjamin. He says that is just a Christian McCaffrey, just an absolutely epic spot. It's a dream matchup. I will say Derry Sanders, by far, that's the most horrible nickname I've ever heard. Absolutely no way that sticks. Siege, before we get into the play, any thoughts on Scott Barrett's nickname of Christian McCaffrey as Derry Sanders and what the hell that possibly means?
I think it's a reference on Barry Sanders.
Yes, but why Derry? Is it because he's kind of a milky white?
I don't know.
I mean, what does it even mean?
I have no idea.
Maybe the chat.
All I know is that Christian.
Maybe the chat could give us some suggestions.
He's going to mash this week, and so he might look like Barry Sanders this week. He's going to absolutely mash. I love this spot. Atlanta gives up 11 targets per game to pass catching backs. Christian McCaffrey gets a ton of targets. There's no Kelvin Benjamin. Funchess is going to get Trufant. It's screaming Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield, Christian McCaffrey out of the slot, Christian McCaffrey in the wildcat, Christian McCaffrey everywhere. I love Christian McCaffrey. If he busts, you guys should probably listen to the Monday Morning Grind because, well, I will not be secondary.
I love him. I love him this week. I mean, I love him this week. This is the nuts, dude. Like, I don't say it very much. I don't say it often that I'm this sure. I am this sure. This is the absolute nuts in this spot. Look, he's been seeing over 6 receptions a game anyway. It's like that floor is elite, and that thing is going to tick up now with Kelvin going. You don't trade away Kelvin Benjamin unless you have a plan. And I have news for you. Look, Curtis Samuel is a guy who I have done a lot of evaluation on live and in person. A guy that we have a lot of great intelligence on. We always have. I don't think that guy's completely ready just yet. They're not going to completely insert him into this system and to let him take the targets away. Russell Shepard. I mean, that's another guy I've been following since he was a high schooler. Like he's fine. He's a pretty good athlete. But look, man, this means a huge uptick for Christian McCaffrey over the last 2 years. The team most killed by opposing runners as far as being receivers out of the backfield. It's been the Falcons. That's no secret to anybody. I mean, I guess in 2016, it looks like they're 6th in receiving yards allowed, but I think that they've already had their bye, and a lot of those teams haven't had their bye. Ask the Siege's boy James White about what you can do through the air out of the backfield against these guys. I see everything lining up for Christian McCaffrey. I think he's 6,500 on DraftKings. Is that right?
3. Hold on, I have it up right here.
I think he's somewhere right in there.
You're right.
6,500, 63. I think that. Let me ask you this: you like him better in a full point PPR setup better than Alvin Kamara, right?
Yeah, but again, I think Kamara has the higher ceiling just because if Ingram gets benched, he will just go absolutely bananas.
Agreed.
I don't see Christian McCaffrey getting to 30 this week. Like that would be a real outlier. I see roads for Alvin Kamara to get to 30 without much effort. Like if Ingram gets benched, like he's going to just obliterate.
I think Christian McCaffrey catches 10 balls. I think Christian McCaffrey goes for over 75 all-purpose yards, and I think he gets in the box. I think
he gets 7 to 10 carries this week. I think that's the hot take with Christian McCaffrey. I think they're finally going to just.
Isn't that so messed up that that's a hot take? Like, why can't they hand him the football? It's just
because Mike Shula's an idiot. Like, of course he doesn't run the ball well between the tackles. The guy runs the ball between tackles like 2 times a game. Like, what running back does well on 2 carries a game on average? Like, it's just stupid. Mike Shula's an idiot. Josh ADHD, you were right. Like, I feel like I paid my penance for saying Mike Shula wasn't terrible. Can I get good Christian McCaffrey now, please?
so now it's just like you said the magic words. Maybe you'll get it now, huh?
Oh, I hope so.
All right. Christian McCaffrey, Siege and I both agree. Terrific play this week, and Christian McCaffrey is a guy that we sometimes usually have disagreements on. So I see that as something. I love Christian McCaffrey. I'm gonna get him in a ton of spots this week. Okay, let's go to the next one. This clip comes from the Swolecast, which comes on Friday nights. You can watch it live on RotoGrinders, and if you have RotoGrinders incentives for any of the fantasy sites, you can go back and watch it on replay. I always highly recommend it. The guys on there, they're hilarious for one, but they've got a lot of great information. This one is from Evan Silva as he goes through the group of 3 of the kind of, I guess, the 3 sort of high-priced, sort of pay-up stud running backs and ranks them in the order that he sees them as far as week 9.
All right, Silva,
10 points, baby.
You have to rank them. Gurley, and then let's leave Fournette out. Gurley, Hunt, Zeke. I think you're on mute right now.
Zeke 1, Gurley 2, Hunt 3.
So you're concerned about Hunt as well?
I mean, I think he's a fine play. I just think those other dudes are better. I think that Hunt's price, like, why has his price not come down? He hasn't scored a touchdown in 5 games. I mean, if he's down at like 8,100, where I think he should be, I mean, he also isn't an every down back like these other guys. I mean, they use Sharkhandrick West. I don't know why his price has stayed so high.
Yeah. You're talking about on FanDuel where he's still 9K, correct?
Yeah.
The way that I'm looking at it right now is playing him on DK and Elliott on FanDuel. But I think they're both in really good spots.
You should probably just play Elliott on both.
Probably should. Every time I fade Elliott, it hasn't gone well. Not at all. Okay, let's go with the wide receiver position now. Unless someone wants to give a Fournette take. We've already talked about the New Orleans situation. Anybody want to get a Fournette take?
I mean, the Bengals,
he's a great play.
Yeah, he's a great play, and he correlates so well with by far the best defensive play on the slate. I mean, the Jaguars are going to wreck.
Okay, so that comes from the Swolecast, which comes out Friday nights here on Grinders Live, and that was Evan Silva from Roto World, and he was asked to rank the high-priced stud running backs. And I'm a little bit offended that Leonard Fournette was not on that list. But
he shouldn't be on that list. That's a good list. They ranked them. Those guys were correct in not leaving on that list.
I think that the all-time Leonard Fournette hater, CJ Kaltenbach, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, you know what? Everyone was like, "Oh, Kareem Hunt, he's going to score 25 fantasy points every week because he's going to break that long run." Guess what's happened? He hasn't scored over 15 in like a month.
What does that have to do with Leonard Fournette?
It's the same thing. He's not going to get those long touchdowns every single week.
he's done pretty good so far.
That's fine. The regression's going to hit, and now he's priced through the nose. Like he has no business being in that conversation with Ty Gurley and Zeke. None. Zero.
Well, what about Hunt?
I just explained why Hunt has no business being in that conversation.
Well, he was in this conversation whenever Silva ranked the high-priced running backs. Silva ranked them as would be approved by Siege, I'm sure. Zeke, Gurley, and then Hunt. In that order, and then he actually, to Siege's point, he asks why Hunt's price hasn't gone down when the dude hasn't scored in 5 games.
I actually would rank them Gurley number 1. I have Gurley number 1. He's my favorite player on the entire slate. The Giants team is done. They're done.
Yeah, they're absolutely terrible. Like terrible. What are they doing? Suspending Janoris and like all this like. What are they doing?
Control the locker room. He has no control over anything that's going on in that franchise right now. Like they're just done. And they're, when you see a team that's done, you just have to understand like, okay, now I have to be able to make a pivot here and just understand that team is done. So like, I'm going to attack the Rams here. Todd Gurley's their entire offense. He's going to run all over them. He's going to pass catch all over them. He's going to put up a gazillion points. I love Todd Gurley. He's going to be the highest owned player for me this week. And I have no qualms about it. I have no concerns. I have no worry. The Giants as a team do not scare me in the least. I have no concerns whatsoever on this spot. I really don't.
So Gurley's going to be look, I love Todd Gurley this week. Our models at Roster Watch before Zeke was back in. They had Gurley as by far and away the play. Once you insert Zeke back in, it's just, it's pretty. Man, Zeke has been so good, man. He's been like, it's really. What is it about Gurley that you like so much more than Zeke?
The pass catching.
Yeah, I get it. And the thing is about Zeke, that's kind of where I was coming from because the thing is about Zeke.
They also practiced all week without him too. So like,
yeah, but I kind of have the Warren Sharp. I kind of have his I get the Warren Sharp vibe on that they practiced all week without him. They thought about ways that they can exploit this team without him. They're going to be using those plays and likely not getting away from him, which should lead to more offensive efficiency, more offensive production, which should, in theory, lead to more scoring situations. And when they're in those scoring situations, they will, of course, revert back to handing the ball to Zeke. I think that kind of makes sense. I also all right, here we go. Back to the props. The prop on Zeke is outrageous.
So much for my 2 segments without props.
Our number 7 matchup of the week, 9,000 on DK. It's the biggest rushing prop I've seen all year. And as you know, I'm maniacal about collecting these. 104.5 rushing yards. But to CJ's point, only a 1.5 reception prop. And I think that goes to the fact that Kansas City, what they defend best is running backs out of the backfield. I don't think Zeke's going to see a very big workload catching the football out of the backfield in this game. But still, I mean, as far as the touchdown odds, I mean, do you not care about those anymore either?
No.
All right. But by far the best touchdown odds on the whole entire slate at minus 250. With all that being said, if you look at Gurley's prop, Vegas sees him as a much, 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 much better value. 85.5 rushing yards, 3.5 receptions for 31.5 on top of that, and minus 135 for the touchdown. So, I mean, I can see it. For me, I just feel very, very comfortable with that run offense. I feel like there's no real way for it to go sideways, and we've seen it with Gurley at least once. It's gone sideways in a matchup that on paper was okay, that we should have known probably wasn't that good when they traveled to Seattle, and for some reason McVay blew a fuse and decided to have Goff throw the ball 50 times. But but I think we both agree probably Hunt's at the bottom of that list.
Yeah,
out of those three.
Yeah, for sure. He's a distant third.
You like Zeke better than Hunt?
Yeah.
And how much exposure are you going to have to Zeke compared to Gurley?
Well, let me tell you, I can click. I literally just finished hitting the button to just go the next 150. I took out Captain Brock because he was causing some issues on the build.
I can't believe you even had him in there to begin with. He's going to cause issues on your build anytime, I think.
That's the thing. I'm going to build teams by hand. I'm going to have some Captain Brock. I have 80% Gurley, and then let's see. Actually, I have 0 Zeke and a little Hunt. So I'm not sure how that happened, but that's kind of where I'm at right now.
So you like Hunt better than Zeke? Or are you saying that's just how you have it now and you're probably
going to change it? That's just how I have it now, and that's going to change probably as we move on to the next segment.
All right. Let's see. Let's go to the next segment. This comes from we have 2 more left before we get into our free for all portion. This one comes from the expert round table, or the expert square table, like Adam Levitan calls it. This take comes from Jay.
The Mazda lineup of SUVs will provide safety, performance, and capability on your journey ahead. From the 3-row Mazda CX-9 to the first ever Mazda CX-50, our sales team is ready to guide you to the SUV for your lifestyle. Shop the Omaha Metro's exclusive Mazda dealers at Woodhouse Mazda in Bellevue or Woodhouse Place Mazda. Visit us online for your next Mazda SUV at woodhousemazda.com.
AM to win, and he says the entire weekend is going to hinge on whether you play this one guy.
Let's move to wide receiver. Before we get to kind of some of the cheap plays, I want to get your take on what I guess is emerging as the chalk. I didn't think it was going to be, considering how bad he's been 4 out of the last 5 weeks. But T.Y. Hilton is down to 4,900, cheapest he's been since 2013. I think he has a pretty good matchup. I know you kind of disagree, but I think he will see 8-9 targets for 4,900. Are you thinking about going for a T.Y. Hilton fade?
I'm definitely thinking about it. I am currently planning to, and here's the thing. The entire weekend will likely hinge on whether or not you play T.Y. Hilton. I mean, he's 4,900. He's going to be, right now, we have him projected at 35% ownership. And you're talking about a guy who's 4,900 and 35% owned who can get 30 points. If he gets 30 points and you don't have him, you're in really tough shape. If he puts up under 10 points, as he has in 6 out of 8 games this year, then you're in great shape fading him because you can get more points per dollar there. I mean, Hilton's matchups have been atrocious. Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Seattle, Patrick Peterson, the Rams. It's been a really tough schedule. And Cleveland and Tennessee were the 2 teams he went off against who have poor pass defenses. With that said, Houston has allowed the 7th fewest receptions to wide receivers. I saw in Evan's matchups article, he brought up, what Paul Richardson and Tyler Lockett did last week. But again, you're just looking at guys who are great in contested catch situations, and Russ was just throwing it deep to them in one-on-one coverage. I just don't see Brissett being able to do that to Hilton. So I would not at all be surprised if he finishes with 6, 7, 8 points once again. If he were going to be 10% owned, I would have 0 interest in him. The one thing that might pull me toward him, I mean, this guy's probably going to be 60, 70% owned in double ups this week. So yeah, I mean, the entire week kind of hinges on what you do with Hilton. I still don't like him. I may end up playing him just as a hedge in cash games, but I think he'll probably be a complete fade for me in tournaments, and I won't be surprised if I end up without him in cash games as well.
All right, so that was JM to win, and he hosts the Expert Square Table with Adam Levington on Friday night.
Don't you?
Yeah,
dude,
I think I laugh my ass off every time I say it because it's funny. It really isn't a round table. There's only two of them. There's only two of these guys. But JM to win says the entire weekend is going to hinge on whether or not you play T.Y. Hilton at 4,900. Siege, your thoughts?
I think he's right. Like, that's your entire weekend in tournaments. Like, if he puts up 25 and you don't have him, you're done. If he puts up 12 and you fade, you are in glorious shape because he's going to be about 40% owned.
Yikes.
This really just
tournaments
comes down
or in cash? In tournaments?
In tournaments, in cash, he's going to be like 85,
80,
90. Like, he's going to be as high as you can get, whatever the max you can get in cash games. Right. That's where he's going to end up. For me, this situation really just comes down to what do I think the pace of this game is going to do. And I was, before the Watson injury, I thought the total was a joke at 51. I thought the spread was a joke at 14. I said such anywhere I could, and I put some money on it. And I now think even without Deshaun Watson, this total of 46 is too high. I think this line is still too inflated because the line was inflated by like 6 points with Deshaun Watson, and they couldn't just take it all out of the line once he was out. This should be like, I think this game's going to be slow. The Colts have been playing slow. They've been playing slow for a month. And I don't think Tom Savage is going to just spread out the field and just start playing no huddle. I think the pace is going to be slow, and slow. And so with the people that are just loving this game, I just think I'm going to take a stand where I don't play this game. Could come back and bite me. I understand that, but it's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm not going to take 0, obviously, because he can like destroy your slate. So like I'll play a little bit, but I'll be 3 to 4 times underweight of the field.
T.Y. Hilton, look at this split, man. At Houston, T.Y. Hilton does work. He does work.
He's got freaking Jacoby Brissett. You're going to use old data? Get the hell out of here. You can't – no. You cannot use data when Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck were his quarterback and say that has anything to do at all.
No.
Use your performance when it's Jacoby Brissett. No.
Here's the thing. T.Y. Hilton's big weeks have been easily predictable. There have been 2 of them. We've been all over them. You and I have been all over them. I've been all over them on my show on SiriusXM Fantasy, on my website, Roster Watch. There have been 2 weeks wherever I have actively targeted T.Y. Hilton. They've both been at home. They have both been indoors. They've both been versus bad secondaries. And both times it has been with Jacoby Brissett at the quarterback. He has shown that he does have upside with Jacoby Brissett. Outside of this thing not being at home, it has all the things to line up for a big game for T.Y. Hilton. The only thing that spooks you a little bit is that the offense is capped on the other, it's capped on the other side now. That offense has been neutered with the loss of Deshaun Watson. So they're not going to be running it back and forth with one another, which certainly hurts it. But while I understand that the quarterback play is nowhere near where it had been, he is still averaging over 9 fantasy points in PPR better at Houston than he is in all other contests outside of the split, 22.58 versus 13.83. So he has had big games there in Houston. And he has shown that with Jacoby Brissett, he has shown he has a ceiling. I don't think it's quite as easy a fade as you do. I'm not saying I'm not going to.
Easy fade. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he's 40% a game that I think is going to go way under. I think both these teams are going to run the football. I don't see a ton of plays here. I think Jack Doyle is viable. This just comes down to what if I thought this game was going to go over, I would have lock button T.Y. Hilton. But I don't. I think this game is going to go 17-14. Or there's the probability that Tom Savage is just so bad, the Colts get up to a 17-0 lead, and then they just run the ball the entire time.
I mean, I get that. I mean, I can certainly get behind any of that.
Where T.Y. Hilton does not get you to tournament value. And on a slate where it's going to be 40%, I can knock out 40% of the field. Like if T.Y. Hilton gets me 15, I consider that a win. Because I don't think the winning tournament team is going to have a 15 on it.
Oh, you're saying if you fade him and the rosters that do have him get him to 15.
I'm taking that as a victory.
Oh, right.
Now,
yeah.
I might not beat that with my guys. That's fine. I just don't think 15 is going to be on the winning tournament lineup. So, I just think, again, the ownership's going to be too high for a game that I think is going to be slow. And sure, T.Y. Hilton can put up 20 on one play. Not disputing that at all. But I just think at that ownership level, it's a spot where I'm going to be underweight. Again, it's not like I'm playing 0, but I'm not going to be at 40 or over. That's for sure.
If he gets that 27.7 or that 31.3 like he had at San Francisco and Cleveland, which were similar matchups,
I'll lose.
So it was a little scary, but 40% is tough. And you got guys all around him. We were talking off air, and you were saying, if you don't go with him, you got to, if you're going to pay up, you got to pay down for these guys. But you have guys around, like you have Paul Richardson right there with him at 4,700.
You have to win in that game. You can't throw the ball deep.
Fair enough. Yeah, so that would also probably take you off lock. Well, we don't know about wind yet. I think sometimes we overblow that stuff.
Ross seems pretty convinced. So,
well, I haven't looked at Ross weather. He always comes on He comes on the RotoGrinders show right after mine tomorrow morning. So I'll make sure and listen into what he says on the Sunday forecast. I'd like to hear it on Sunday more than I do the day before. But yeah, that would certainly be worrisome if there are. Did he say like how sustained winds? Did he say the mile per hour?
20 with gusts in the 25. Again, like I don't think it's going to stop all passing, but I just think the deep balls that's going to have an effect.
Okay, yeah, I mean that's certainly fair enough. Let's go to well, before we get off of this one, any other plays on like in this game that you're looking at all now? Without, I mean, everybody was looking at it before Deshaun Watson, went down.
I like Lamar Miller. I think he's fine. I think he's a kind of a nice mid-tier option. I think that Jack Doyle is still good. I've been on the Jack Doyle train for weeks now. I'm not going to stop now.
Were you on him last week?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, nice. Good work.
That was fun. That was absolutely fun. Stupid, shady, garbage time touchdown. That really hurt the bottom line.
I'll bet.
26%, freaking at 8,700. Oh my God, I might have throw
something.
I was World Coca-Cola, and I almost threw my Coca-Cola cup and just threw it across the room. I was so mad.
It can't have been any worse than that one dude who lost $1 million on the last play of the Dallas game.
Or could have been awesome. You also some guy won $1 million.
Yeah, true.
So
true.
I just think that this game is just going to go under. I really think this is a very slow paced game. I really like the under here.
Okay, so Doyle, you're on him. What about Lamar Miller? If you think it's slow pace, they're gonna take the
take
the air out of the ball.
I mentioned him. I like him. I have no complaints with him.
And I'm guessing no Will Fuller, even though you love him more than.
How can you pay $7K for Will Fuller? Right.
Okay. He's going to be literally point.
Oh no, he's
point 0.08% on.
If you play Tom Savage, you should play one with Will Fuller. That's all I'm saying.
You shouldn't play Tom Savage, which is a great segue here to the last one. I love this show with Chris Jimino, Chris Raybon, and Warren Sharp DFS analysis. It's the last show, the nightcap on Friday evenings here on Grinders Live. And this is Chris Raybon giving his take about one Mr. Tom Savage.
If this was just any old team that we don't usually target in DFS, and then all of a sudden they were playing the Indianapolis Colts, we would be looking at them. We'd be like, oh, hey, this is an under-the-radar play. But now I feel like people are kind of moving off these Houston Texans a little bit, and I want to exploit it because all of a sudden you can get Hopkins and Fuller in your lineups with Tom Savage, and it kind of makes it a lot cheaper because you're balancing out that elevated cost of Hopkins and Fuller with the cheap cost of Savage at quarterback. And again, these guys are elite. These guys are playing at an elite level right now. And it's not just Hopkins, it's Fuller. And so I think that this is a really great spot. And I don't the Hopkins and Fuller aren't just going to magically stop getting open against the worst pass defense in the league just because you have Tom Savage. And he's not just going to magically take, 7 sacks and 20 dropbacks against a team with no pass rush. So, look at what we've talked about these Colts before. In week 3, I think we talked about the Colts were going against the Cleveland Browns. We talked about how that was a situation to exploit. What happened? Deshaun Kaiser, probably most people would agree, the worst quarterback in the league so far this year. He won somebody the Millie Maker against the Colts in week 3. Then in week 5, we talked about it again. Brian Hoyer. We like Brian Hoyer and 49ers against the Colts defense. What happened? Brian Hoyer won Cal Spears of RotoGrinders the Millionaire Maker. That's 2 times in 3 weeks. Two of the worst quarterbacks, maybe the 2 worst quarterbacks, both benched at least once this season in the Millie Maker. So what makes Tom Savage any different? I mean, and let's not forget, Tom Savage has been in Bill O'Brien's system since 2014, since Bill O'Brien got there. So I really like the spot for the Houston Texans still, and I don't think we should necessarily be moving off of any of these plays. You know, you kind of have to look at it like Occam's razor, where the simplest solution is sometimes the best. Okay, Deshaun Watson's out, pivot to Savage.
Okay, so that was Chris Raybon from 4 for 4 in the DFS MVP podcast. Generally a super sharp guy. For some reason that I cannot wrap my head around is advocating getting Tom Savage into your lineups as a way to fit in Hopkins and Fuller at the elevated prices. See, as you were talking about it, like you're getting notifications on your Twitter right now from people calling you a donk about saying
I was kidding.
So
I was totally
what
kidding.
is all this? What, like, has the world gone crazy?
I understand why you're playing Tom Savage. I understand it because I'm playing guys like Brock Osweiler and Joe Flacco. I understand what you're doing. I understand the point. The lineup construction, when you do that, like when you pick a contrarian game to go off, you get to play all the elite stud running backs that you love. I understand the roster.
And you get to watch your quarterback crap his pants and get you negative points. You're going to get Brock Osweiler. You're going to get Brock Osweiler.
The Philly secondary still sucks. Nothing's changed.
His offensive line sucks, and that's a great pass rush. He's going to get
he's
decimated.
Also 4,500. I don't need him to go.
He's
for
going to
like
get decimated.
I need him to go for like 15. He can do that.
He's not going to. He's going to get you -4.
He's not going to get me -4. Stop it. Hey, you want to do the over/under on like 8 points for Brock Osweiler?
Sure.
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I'll take the over on 8 for Brock Osweiler.
Yeah. Book it.
Yes. All right. Good.
Look,
I like the cheap quarterbacks this week. Like, again, like let me rephrase this. I like what they get me everywhere else, and all I need them to do is connect like 1 time or 2 times for touchdowns, and I'm just going to win all the money.
You could have got me a 6.5. You could have got me a 6.5.
You kidding me? You could have had me for like 12 or 13. So 8's perfectly fine. I just think this is just a spot where like the running backs are clearly the best plays on the board this week. Like I think the running backs are clearly the best plays.
Well, that's fine. Why not go with Flacco? Why not go even Drew Stanton?
I'm going to have Flacco too. I'm going to use Stanton. I'm just going to rotate all these. I'm going to rotate them all.
Why even put these guys in your rotation? Why put Tom Savage? I think he got sacked, fumbled 5 times in his first start. Was it 5?
I like that game to go under, but I'm going to play 3 to 5% Savage.
Tom Savage
5%.
He's never thrown an NFL touchdown.
I'm not disputing that Tom Savage isn't good at football. I've recommended lots of players that suck at football on this show.
Yeah, I know.
Some of them have sucked, and some of them have done well. But that's the name of the game in tournaments. Like I'm just going to rotate these guys through in tournaments. And if one of the combinations go off, I've got the stud running backs and I win a lot of money.
I want the Indianapolis defense here.
I mean, it's fine. I understand it. They're 2K and Tom Savage sucks. Like I'm not disputing that. That's fine.
He has no pocket presence. He is hit between him and Brock Osweiler. They are the worst players I can think of. I think Brock is probably worse. He's probably worse. But boy, these guys are both they are going to crap their pants and ruin your lineups. I would just say I would so much rather get in it. I just take them out of your player pool. Just get in Goff and Flacco, even Stanton. What are we doing, messing around with these idiots like Savage and Brock Osweiler?
Because you get to play all the other Dwayne players. You get to play all the other guys you
could do that. You could do that with Blake Bortles. I mean, you could do it with Goff. You could do it with Flacco.
I actually liked Blake Bortles before Marquise Lee magically showed back up in practice. I actually was on Blake Bortles. What
about the GOAT, D.D. Westbrook? He's back this week.
He's not going to start. If Marquise Lee was out, this show would have been an hour of D.D. Westbrook time.
You're damn right it would have been. Hey,
I could not believe he came back. I was so upset on Friday. I broke a mouse I was ready to go on D.D. Westbrook. I all ready to. Like, I had like a sharp like PowerPoint ready to go on D.D. Westbrook. That kid is talented, and he should start over Marquise Lee as is. But like, you gonna tell me that like with Marquise Lee and Hearns both playing that like you can project D.D. Westbrook to have a ceiling? You can't, right?
Dude, any play. Any play. I mean,
I understand the guy won me so much money in preseason DFS.
I mean, if that guy wasn't like the worst like interviewer and communicator with these NFL teams like that he was during this process,
he's the first guy to win the Bolonikoff Award that didn't go in the first round.
Yeah, it would have because the thing was, he had off-field issues, and if he would have been able just to communicate pretty well and stuff like that, and to like be able to ward off those issues the way that some of these guys can. He'd be a first round. If Tavon Austin's a first round guy, D.D. Westbrook is a beyond a first round guy, but he interviewed terribly. So
the talent is super, super good,
unbelievable. So just something to keep in mind. I'm gonna give him my millionaire maker lineup.
You know what? I am gonna throw him in. I'm gonna add him.
I'm just gonna get a little bit. But
I'm gonna add him back in. You're right. Like the talent is too good. I'm gonna feel really stupid if I miss out on D.D. Westbrook and all these other crappy players.
Well, and then because next week he's gonna be only 4,100 and he's gonna be 35% owned.
Yeah, you're right. I need to get him in now. It's like God, why couldn't Marquise Lee just sit out, man? Sit out.
It could be better. Maybe he'll get hurt early on, and
even if he doesn't play like knee issue. Come on, man. Just sit. Just sit. That's all I'm asking for. Just sit.
All right. So let's see. I wanted to get into a couple other topics here with you. I guess we have our bet on Brock.
Would you like to do? I'll
I'll
do some more too on cheap quarterbacks if you like, because I mean, you're just poo-pooing all these guys that you just don't want to roster in cash games, but that's fine. I'm not talking about cash games.
Well, I'm a cash game player at heart, so right. I mean, I like to play in
every
tournaments.
Every time I bring up something that's slightly just like makes you want to throw up, like you just immediately go into no mode.
Yeah, maybe so. But I will say that even in tournaments, man, I think you can why not get in Flacco?
I'm gonna have
against the Titans.
I like that game. That's one of my favorite games on the slate. I like Baltimore, Tennessee to shoot out a ton.
Well, that's a hot take.
I think that game I think that Tennessee-Cleveland game has people scared, and that game clearly just told me that Marcus Mariota was hurt because they tried to run the ball 30 times against the Browns defense, and it just doesn't work. And
Mariota's healthy.
Told you that.
And Mariota's healthy now. He's healthy.
Baltimore defense has played no one all season. They faced like some of the worst passing offenses in all the entire league.
Trubisky and stuff.
And like the best quarterback they faced is Road Big Ben, and then on the other side,
Keenum.
Tennessee pass defense is awful. We saw what Deshaun Watson and quarterbacks have done to them. And then, Flacco can air it out. Now, do I think they want to air it out? No. So I don't think it's like the most probable outcome when this turns into a shootout. But, if Tennessee can get out to an early lead, I think Baltimore will have to throw the football more. And I think Wallace and Macklin are free. The key is free. They are free. free. And they're going to get targets. And if they get in the end zone, then you get to play Todd Gurley and Zeke on the same team. And that makes your teams feel much better at heart.
No, I mean, I certainly agree. And you say you're paying up a lot for these running backs. Do you have any interest in any of these guys that are more mid-value? Like, what about Adrian Peterson? An awesome matchup. You have no interest even?
Awesome matchup. That team can't block to save their lives.
Yeah, but San Francisco, they can't stop the run to save their lives. And now Bruce Arians is saying, his exact words were he's going to feed the beast. I don't think that AD's a beast anymore. But, I don't even want to bring up the prop, but it's a good one. 79.5 yards on the ground.
I think that total is extremely high. I have no interest in AP this week.
Minus 120 to score. Still no interest.
Like if you're playing on FanDuel, I would play Damian Williams first. I wish he was on the DK main slate. I would have tons of Damian Williams if he was on the main slate.
Hold on. Do you like Damian Williams more than Kenyon Drake?
Of course I do.
Oh, well, can that be our bet?
It's a matchup. Yeah,
what?
Sure.
Can that be our bet?
I'll take Damian Williams PPR versus Kenyon Drake.
Just straight up?
Yeah.
Perfect. Booked. So we got two bets now. All right, so Kenyon Drake versus Damian Williams.
So this is why you don't play Kenyon Drake. This is the Oakland Raiders. What do the Oakland Raiders suck at? Pass catching running backs. Who's the pass catching back? Damian Williams. So they say they're going to split the first and second down work. We all know who's getting the third down work. It's Damian Williams. So the only way in which Damian Williams loses the touch battle is basically if it's an 80-20 for Kenyon Drake. I don't see that happening.
Adam Gase loves Kenyon Drake. And here's the thing.
He loved him so much. He played him 0 snaps even when Jay Ajayi was dying. Come on.
Jay Ajayi's gone. He had to think he had something, and he's been talking about it. When
Jay Ajayi was playing on one knee, he loved Kenyon Drake so much that he gave him exactly 0 snaps.
Well, do you know what that had to do with, Siege? It had to do with the fact that coming out, Kenyon Drake couldn't pass protect worth a damn. He was actually probably the worst pass protection guy I've ever seen. From what I've heard from some people there in Miami, they say he's a little bit better, but still not good enough. A little bit better.
I mean, a little bit better than terrible is slightly above terrible.
Right. I mean, I get it. I mean, that's why you still have a Damian Williams.
That's like saying that Texas this year is slightly above terrible. Well, yeah, they're still terrible.
Yeah, boy, you don't need to get me started on the University of Texas Longhorns. But yeah, I mean, I think I think Kenyon Drake gets first crack at it. I know for a fact, and you know for a fact, that Kenyon Drake is by far the superior athlete, and that if he gets a little bit of space, he's capable of taking it the distance in a way that Damian Williams could never dream of being. But I think I understand what you're saying as far as the usage. I think that it makes. I think it's a fair bet. I think
if Damian Williams destroys in this spot, I really do. I think he's gonna win someone $500,000 on FanDuel.
Well, are you gonna have a lot of them?
Yes.
He's going to be one of your pay downs to get up for these others.
On FanDuel, he's going to be actually a scenario on FanDuel where he's not on the DK main. If he was on the DK main, my lineup build would be completely different. But he's not.
Oh, this is the Sunday night game, right?
Right. So where he's on the FanDuel main slate, I'll be able to pay up more at wide receiver and tight end than I can and quarterback than I can on DraftKings.
You always love Cameron Brate. Why no love for him this week? Adam Williams. It's a great matchup.
I do like him. I think he's a solid tight end option. It's just he's well behind Jimmy Graham.
Any interest in Carlos Hyde in that game facing off against?
What is up with the damn Carlos Hyde love? I know.
People been talking about Carlos Hyde.
I'm on a team that's trying to lose football games. We just put Pierre Garçon on IR for an injury that no one knows exactly when it happened because he was practicing just fine, and then they had a no contact practice, and then magically he has a neck injury and on IR. We drafted Matt Breida out of Georgia Southern, and we love him. He beat out the guy that we're supposed to be above him on the depth chart. We've been in a timeshare, and we're trying to lose football games, but let's go ahead and play Carlos Hyde this week. What?
I mean,
why does everyone want to play these guys in timeshares so badly? I understand it's because you don't want to play the punt wide receivers. Guess what? Swallow your pride, do your research, and play the punt wide receivers in good spots. We haven't had to do it in a month, and everyone's just now scared to do it. It's recency bias in its worst form.
Speaking of punt wide receivers, I think one guy who, like I said, haven't heard much about Carlos Hyde, but maybe heard a little bit. Another guy who I've heard maybe a little bit on, but not too much. Sammy Watkins going up against a Janoris Jenkins-less New York Giants defense. Any interest in any of these guys? Cooper Kupp, Sammy Watkins. I mean, those are some pay down, 4K-ish guys.
Todd Gurley. I'm just playing 80% Todd Gurley.
Okay, well then in that same game, any interest in bringing it back with maybe an Orleans?
Bears defense is one of my favorite defenses on the board.
No interest in Orleans Darkwood 3,800?
If you could tell me if he was actually going to get the snaps, they should start playing Wayne Gallman more. That team's terrible.
No, I mean I get that. I think that Orleans Darkwood though, I mean it just feels it's gross, especially with Paul Perkins back.
I would rather play Eddie Lacy first. And I hate Eddie Lacy, but I'd rather do that.
Man, I tweeted this out, man, but Eddie Lacy last week looked like the Weekend at Bernie's version of an NFL running back.
I understand. I totally understand, but they say he's going to be the lead guy and he's 3.2K. Like, I get it. I don't
in a good matchup.
I get it. I totally get it. It makes me puke, but I'm absolutely going to be like, if he's going to be like 7%, I'm going to show up at 10 to 12%, but ugh.
All right, so we have two bets this week. We already discussed our bet from last week that I came out victorious on with a big monster Josh Doxson touchdown.
I'm literally still sick over that. Like, God, my guy gets hurt in the first quarter and you somehow still almost lose.
Talk about
moral victory, by the way. Josh Doxson, the exact fraud I thought he was.
You wait and see about Doxson. You wait and see about Doxson.
He's going to be good.
The best is yet to come.
He was going to be a fraud last week. That's what I said, and he was a fraud. That's a win in everything but the scoreboard.
It's actually 2 wins because it was a double. So that brings you up to 1 unit up on me on the season.
Oh my God.
We have
what a joke. We should have put like a middle of like 10 receiving yards on the damn thing.
That puts you up 1 unit on the season. We have 2 bets. We have 2 bets this week. That one is that just I'm going to chalk
over 8. I'm going
to chalk it up as a win right off the bat.
That's no way. A free unit. I appreciate that.
And the second one was I'm taking Kenyon Drake versus Damian Williams straight up. Well, just DK scoring, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So DK scoring. I want to make sure that I get my 100-yard bonus for Kenyon Drake.
Kenyon Drake for 100 yards. There's your hot take. Okay, it's my turn.
No. No, because I was just kidding about that. Do you have a hot take first? Because as usual, I didn't.
Actually, I do have one. I do have one ready to go.
Okay.
Ryan Grant for over 16 DraftKings points.
Ryan Grant?
Love Ryan Grant this week.
You love. How much does he cost?
3,500, I think.
Why do you? So is this more Doxson hate, or is there a reason that you like him? Some kind of slot guys versus
Seattle. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
he's actually been in the offense all season and actually been catching targets, whereas like Doxson and Pryor have been sitting on the bench.
My hot take's easy. D.D. Westbrook 6x.
That's a great take. Damn it.
D.D. Westbrook 6x. What is that like?
It's definitely a hot take, but I love it.
It's like 21 points, something like that. Easy.
Yeah.
That's easy.
I wouldn't say it's easy. I like the take, but it's definitely not easy.
We're going to thank you guys so much for joining us today. We got to get out of here. This has been the Week 9 DFS Roundup here on Grinders Live. You can find all of the Seige's work here on RotoGrinders. Make sure that you go to the marketplace and check out his tournament tactics packages, both for NFL and NBA. The NBA one, I haven't seen I'm sure you guys are doing well in NFL, but I can personally speak for the NBA one. Great product. It's going to make you some cash. So make sure and go check that out. Also, you can find all of his stuff here on Grinders Live. You can find all of my work with a pro membership at rosterwatch.com. You can hear me tonight on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio 7 to 9 Eastern, and then tomorrow morning leading right up into Dan and Beer's show 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. So for the Siege, my name is Alex. Thank you guys for joining us. We are getting the hell out of here.